And for the recording, I want to talk about kind of the last month of the semester here. That it's been my experience for my 26 years that usually life gets, attendance, people get ill, people have a harder time paying attention. And so what we've set up really for the last month of the class here is a situation of you're going to be working on, I'm not going to be lecturing as much. We've covered the units basically. Now it's going to come time for you to kind of get started on the annotated bibliography and proposal. I will be speaking probably today more than I will be in other classes, but the hope is that you will be able to get started with this, and there will be no test for Unit 5. You'll turn in actually a draft of your annotated bibliography and proposal. Hello, hello. And so that is kind of the nature of things. So let me start out and actually just ask. Yeah, that was bothering me. Thank you for doing that. No, it really wasn't. I couldn't even see it. So annotated bibliography. How many people have written an annotated bibliography before? Well, just about everybody in the face-to-face class has done that. Can you guys share with me a little bit about what you've done, what you do in an annotated bibliography? Go ahead, Sam.
So I always just, I found sources and then I just wrote maybe a paragraph about why I thought it was important to the research that I was doing.
So say one more time.
I just I cited something and then under it I wrote maybe a paragraph or two about why I thought it was important to the research.
Okay. So why it was important to the research at hand. Anything else? That's part of it, I think. We saw a lot of hands raised. Nobody wants to volunteer. Don't worry, I promise I won't bite your head off. Daisha, have you written one before?
Literally, it's just what Sam said. Why is it important? How can I use it? How can it be useful? What it contributes to it?
How can it contribute? How is it useful to what I'm going to be working on? Madison, have you written one before? Share a little more.
I also tend to do a quick, maybe 1-2 sentence summary of the article. And how it applies to what I'm researching.
So these are kind of the main ideas on things, and what I wanted to pull up first was, are you guys familiar with the Purdue OWL website? Have people used that before? It's a wonderful resource, and so what I wanted to pull up first was kind of the idea behind it. And we've got the link on the website here. So, an annotated bibliography, as I sit in the more comfortable chair up here. Definition, summarize. So what I'm going to ask that you do first, probably in a paragraph form, maybe more than a sentence or two, is to summarize what's gone on. What did they do and what did they find? What did they do and what did they find? Now, when you go into what they did, how much detail would you want to have on that? Bella, what do you think? How much detail? Let's say they did a 2x2 factorial. Let's say it was the driving experiment and they did a 2x2 factorial, found main effects or interactions or X, Y, and Z, and found that when this condition was this. Would you want to, do you think it would be relevant to kind of share micro details of what they did?
I guess so.
So you might want to share some of those, but when you share maybe what was done, you really want to kind of keep it more general than that. Maybe kind of a macro. These researchers were interested in experimenting in determining if dual resource, or what was it? I forget the name of it. Multiple resource theory was pertinent in driving situations. And then maybe describe a little bit about the procedure that they did. They took, X number of people. They did X, Y, and Z. And when you give the findings, now usually when you read a paper and you do the summary, do they usually in a results section, Lily, do they usually go into a lot of details in the results section? What they found. Do they usually go into a lot of statistical stuff and so forth?
Yeah, the statistical technical stuff is more the results, and then the like actual wordy stuff is in the discussion.
Yeah, so what do you think you would want to do in this equation? If you're asked to summarize in an annotated bibliography, what would you want to go into all the details of, the statistics and so forth? No, you'd probably want to go to the first part of the discussion and say, here's what they found. Very importantly, real world. Don't report the statistics there, but kind of just give me a summary of here's what they did and here's what they found. Does that make sense to people? So that would kind of be the nature of things. And then let's go to the next section, and this is on your website, the annotated bibliography. Assess. So what comes to me, how many people have done assessment before? Have people done assessment before? So you read an article, and they did X, Y, and Z. So what, it says here, after summarizing a source, evaluate it, was it useful? How does it compare with other sources? You'll find 9 articles on the topic that you choose. And what should the topic be? What is the title of this class? Cognition and cognitive neuroscience. I'm going to actually ask to make sure that it's not just cognitive, but kind of a cognitive neuroscience. It can be more cognitive, but there has to be a neuroscience part of things. Even neuroscience, or even neuropsychology, if you really want. What's the difference between cognitive neuroscience and cognitive neuropsychology?
Neuropsychology is helping people with the concepts in cognitive neuroscience.
Yeah, so you may actually want to, it's kind of the difference between basic and applied research. Cognitive neuroscience tends to be very basic. Long-term potentiation, here's what's going on. If you're interested in coming up with an annotated bibliography and a proposal that's trying to help people, that might be more cognitive neuropsychology, and that would be okay to have that as an idea. So, examples of assessments. So they give a couple of things here. Critique what they have to say. Was it good? Was it bad? What could have been done better? Kind of show me. And do you use the word I? No, you have to keep it APA format. So this article could be critiqued because they only had 15 people in the study and half of them dropped out. It shows a lack of external validity. It was not well controlled. It was a focus group. It was not high up on the evidence-based ladder. So don't say I, but give me some good critiques. I would almost call it, instead of assess, critique. Critiques for strengths and weaknesses, potentially. And then the final part is reflect. How may this shape your argument? How might this be useful to your research project? So I've got the website up there for this situation. Does that make sense to people? Comments or questions about this? The next thing I'll do, and I'll stop the recording here, was I was actually going to show you an example that I came up with for my research and try to give you a little template of how that might work, just so you can kind of see it. Would that be useful for folks? Okay.